I was part of the most elite, well-trained unit in the United States Navy for almost 10 years. It's not the Navy SEALs, my friend, it's the Navy Band. Well, I barely made it out of A school, but they did give me my orders, and that was to the 7th Fleet Band all the way out in Yokosuka, Japan. So one more time on the airplane, this one for a bit longer ride. At that point, it was about 20 hours to get from Houston, Texas out to Tokyo, and then another couple of hours to get down to the base, which was in Yokosuka, Japan, down by Yokohama. And sure enough, I showed up, and that wasn't the last of my travel for the day. Well, after almost 24 hours traveling, I get down to the base, and at that time I was met by Senior Chief Ingman, who was a really nice guy and kind of hilarious. He was known as a bit of a slob. Everyone would kind of joke that maybe he didn't take a shower all that often, but he was a really nice guy, pretty well-meaning. And he picked me up as we got to the base, and he told me that I needed to get a few things ready. So he said, I'm going to check you into the barracks over here. We went, and at that time we had these little rooms that had 2 little beds in them shared between myself and another sailor. And this guy was in the regular Navy. He wasn't in the Navy Band, but super cool dude. He was in communications. He was gone a lot, so both of us were traveling. It worked out really well for us, sharing that little barracks room. And after boot camp and A school, you call everybody sir. I mean, anyone with a uniform on, you say, yes, sir. And then when you get to the Navy Band, you realize there's enlisted folks and there's officers, and you only call the officer sir. So, it took a while. The senior chief, everyone, I'd keep on saying, yes, sir. And he'd say, hey, I'm just senior chief. Just call me senior. And so anyway, he's real cool dude. And he told me, you need to pack your sea bags. Here's a list of stuff. And I'm going to give you 15 minutes to put your things down. Anything you're not taking with you, put in your locker and lock on it. At that time, I hadn't met my roommate. So I went out, got all my stuff ready, met the senior out at his car. And he said, hey, we're going to take a quick lunch break. So we drove over to the chow hall. And he showed me where that was, and we ate real quick. And then he said, okay, it's time. I got to take you to the airport. And the band's in Hong Kong right now. They're waiting for you. You're going to be playing lead alto saxophone tonight. Yeah, although I was pretty damn exhausted, I think I was just too young and dumb to really question anything and decided, okay, I've got to get on this next plane. So jumped onto the plane at Narita Air Base, and the senior chief was a really cool guy. He was nice enough. He drove me all the way up there and dropped me off. And on the way, he was kind of telling me, okay, you're going to be playing in a big band, jazz music, and the guys are waiting for you. You've got a gig tonight. So when you land, someone will pick you up at the airport, but just be ready, and you're going to have to put your uniform on. One of the guys will help you out, and I think your downbeat is about 8 o'clock tonight. So I finally made it to Hong Kong, didn't even have time to look around, and sure enough, one of the guys in the band picked me up at the airport in a cab, and we hightailed it back to HMAS Tamar, and that was the British Navy base. This was 1991, so the Chinese hadn't taken over yet, and the British still controlled Hong Kong. So just a hell of a day. And, I got in late in the afternoon, and one of the guys in the band had taken a cab out to meet me at the airport. And that was one of my best friends ever. That's John Sorensen, a hell of a trumpet player and the nicest guy you'd ever meet in the world. He was a big blonde guy from Wisconsin and had a very, to me, funny accent from Wisconsin. And just a really, really nice guy. And we jumped in the cab and we were heading back. We were going to make a quick pit stop on the British Navy base. And as soon as we got there, it's kind of the same repeat of earlier in the day. He was like, just throw all your shit in the locker. You don't need a lock because it's only the guys in the band. And here's what you need. And he went through a list. You need your white top and your dress bottoms and your neckerchief. So they had this black thing that went around your neck, and it had to be tied in a really specific way. You need a black socks. You need your shoes, your dress shoes. you need a cover, and that was like the little white, they called it a Dixie cup hat, like you see on the Cracker Jack boxes. And so he's going through this list, get that and get this and get that. And so I'm like piling it all in a bag, and dumbass me, I don't even have a suitcase at that point. I showed up to the Navy band, and I didn't have anything when I got there. I think I had a little bitty carry bag and my sea bag. So, I kind of stuffed everything in the sea bag, and we hightailed it up to a very exclusive club called the American Club, which was the one that we went to that day, was in a high-rise right in the middle of Hong Kong. So we get up to the club there. It's a really beautiful, very exclusive club. And right away, you could tell we took the elevator way up to the top. And as the elevator doors open, there's a bathtub full of Dom Perignon and open bar, giant bar. And I see the band's already set up. They've got a massive sound system, speakers, and they had these stands that we had to carry that went in front of the saxophones where you could put your music onto. And if you can imagine, risers going up. So it was a massive band, talking about like 15 people traveling together. You had to bring all your instruments and all the risers and all this and all that. So it's a big production. And the guys were ready for me. I went and, shook everybody's hand. I'm sure they were thinking the same thing. What is this? Why did they send us this little shit kid? What the hell? But we got set up and started looking over the music that the senior chief had given me earlier. And we sat down, and the guys were really nice, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna play through a couple of songs real quick and do a rehearsal, and then the gig starts in about an hour. Everyone's gonna start coming in here, so we need to go get dressed up as well pretty soon." And at that time, the band leader was another just incredibly nice, amazing guy from Wisconsin, and that's Scott Davenport. So he was an E6, so just getting towards the top of the enlisted ranks. He got everybody together, and he's like, "Okay, first song we're going to play is Little Brown Jug." And I started looking through my folder. You could see everyone knew where the music was. They played these things so many times. I'm scrambling. I finally find Little Brown Jug, and I spread the piece of paper out on my little stand, and here comes Scott counting it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and bam, we jump into it. And, once again, thank you, Doc Morgan. He was a really, really tough instructor when I was in high school, but, really paid dividends at that point. Somehow I jumped in with this big band, and we just gelled immediately, and everyone was, a bit impressed that I was a really good saxophone player. I could even solo at that pretty young age. So, we burned through 2 songs, and Scott was like, "Oh, Hank, good job. I think you're going to do great." And, so we got ready and went into the thing and changed. And by the time we came out, all these people were coming out of the elevators, and everybody was dressed in, beautiful suits and long flowing gowns with gold jewelry everywhere, drinking Dom Perignon. And that was my introduction to the Navy band. And so that was that. We were ready, and 8 o'clock prompt, everyone came in, and we kicked some music off, and we're going to play about 30 minutes and then eat dinner. So we played a number of songs, and it's just incredible playing with this band. Every person in the band was just an outstanding musician. We had some badass trumpet players in the back, and if anyone's heard of the Maynard Ferguson Orchestra, it really reminded me like Maynard Ferguson or the Count Basie. The guys were such quality musicians. I mean, it immediately made me think, oh, I am going to absolutely love playing in the Navy band. So we finished that 30-minute short set, and we sat down to have dinner. And, it was the most incredible dinner. They brought out these beautiful steaks for us and just everything you could want. And immediately Scott pulled me aside, and he said, "Hank, here's the deal with the band. You could have one drink before we start playing. You could have one drink in the first set. And then after the second set, you could loosen up a little bit." So, that's exactly what everyone did. There were some guys in the band that were just massive alcoholics, you could tell, because at dinner, they were already chugging down drinks. And, Scott didn't obviously say anything because they were older. They had been in the band. So I stayed to the rule. I had one, then I had one during our first set. And then we only did 2 sets that night. So the second set, we all drank a couple of drinks, and right at the end, when we finished, probably about 10 o'clock, Scott pulled everyone aside and said, "Hey, good news, guys. We don't have to break down." So that night, we were really lucky. We didn't have to tear down all our musical equipment and put it in the boxes and pack it away. He said, "Hey, if you want to, stay for a couple of drinks, and then, all the guys are going out on town now." And although I had already been up for like 30-something, 40-something hours at that point, I really didn't care. The guys said, "Hey, come on out. We're going to have a few beers." And sure enough, we went out to Hong Kong and found a nice bar that the guys liked and just threw it back. Got absolutely fucking shit-faced with the guys. They thought it was hilarious. I was so young and naive, and they all had a good time. So we ended up stumbling back to the barracks at Tamar and crashed out. And folks, that was my first day of the Navy Band officially. It was a hell of a day. I really appreciate you listening to my stories here, and I wish you all fair winds and following seas.